Hi guys, I'm Lindsay. I'm a therapist assistant here at Therapy Works, and I'm here today to talk to you about running for beginners. It could also be for those who have ran in the past as a regular activity and want to return to running. I am going to kind of talk to you about sort of maybe the plan first to starting out running, um, some of the things that you should be mindful of. Also, talking with your doctor about it to make sure that this will be an okay thing for you to start out or go back to. Some of the things that you should be mindful of is your fluid intake and your diet, and I'll get more into detail about all of those. And also, just kind of in general, for prevention of injuries and what more you can do other than just running as an exercise. So, the first thing I want to talk about is talking with your doctor. Is running going to be a safe thing for you to be doing as a regular activity? Um, some things may not be good for you. Some conditions may not be good for running, like heart conditions. If you have asthma, that's going to be hard for you to be having a good enough oxygen intake for you to regularly run safely. Also, joint issues, if you already have maybe arthritis or some sort of joint trouble, joint pain. Running can be impactful on those joints, especially the knees and ankles, also the hips. If you're having trouble with any of that, again, it's best to speak with your doctor if you're really wanting to get into running as an activity. Something about getting into running is you don't want to just go out and start running. You really want to make sure you've been kind of active for at least a few weeks with some sort of regular exercise routine. And also, you may want to just be, actually, it would be ideal for you to start with just walking as an exercise if you're going to be getting into running as just either regular activity, or if you're wanting to even get into some races, marathons like 5Ks. You would want, if you're someone who's not already active, you really want to do a walking routine for quite a few weeks, along with a specific strengthening program that's not walking. Uh, you really want to make sure that you have specific muscle groups that you're going to be targeting, that you want to start beginning to strengthen up, that could be weak, uh, that you may even that walking will not be sufficient enough to build that strength and stability, to prevent injuries and pain. So what you would really want to focus on is your glutes. So those are the sides of your hips and even the back of your hips, those bigger muscles. And then the ones on the side, they're going to be a smaller muscle group that are really usually kind of forgotten about in a way. Um, I do have those who signed up to be present to watch this. There should be an email sent to you with a few exercises to work on. There's also a couple of stretches on there that are really good to do for pre-workout and post-workout, or run, walk routine that you have. I'll go over that a little bit more as well. Um, Going back to um, starting out with your plan for just maybe even your walking routine, you would want to make sure you have really good footwear. Depending on the way you walk, the shape of your foot, and how you land on that foot. You really want some supportive footwear, and a lot of times it's good to have arch support and just general really good cushioning. There's so many types of shoes out there that are good for walking and running. Some places around here in even just in Lawrence, there are some uh, stores that have those workers there that will help you fit your shoe from the way you walk. They can kind of watch how you're walking uh, and help you get the correct footwear that you need. Even if you feel like you have good footwear, if you've had those shoes for a year or so, you really want to try and get a new pair just to make sure that you're keeping yourself from getting injured. Even if they're not uncomfortable, they just may not be supportive enough properly. And even if it's something like an ankle injury, it could also cause knee problems, hip problems, back problems. Any of those things could happen with the improper footwear. So that's something to really be mindful about as well. When starting with the walking only routine, if you haven't really been someone who has been running, especially for the beginners, or if you haven't really been very active, it would be really good for either whatever stage that you're in of beginning running. You really want to kind of research a week by week program to start. That you can go online, and there's lots of good websites. There's one, runnersworld.com has a lot of routines on there. That's just one website. That kind of depending on your goal, whether you just want to be walking, or you're already kind of active and you want to start getting your body ready for running, or if you're already kind of been doing some of these things and you feel like you are ready to be running, there's plans online to look at that and to help you keep track of, okay, how long should I be walking for before I can start doing a run. And it's best to be gradual on your ratio from walking to running. You would want to just walking for a while and kind of at a pretty good pace. Especially you want to at any point be checking on how your breathing is. You want to be able to carry on a conversation while walking, and if you're getting very winded, then you would want to slow down your pace, slow down how long you walk for. And the same with running, you don't want to get too winded. That can kind of backfire and not be as beneficial with progressing yourself on being able to get up to that extended period of running. So something to think about, I've researched that if you do know your BMI, your body mass index, if you have one that's 35 or greater, also if you're over 60, you really want to work on that gradual progression. A plan that could be from 8 to 12 weeks is something to really think about. Someone who has maybe already been active and not in those categories, you really want to do kind of a plan, maybe starting with a 30-minute exercise 5 days a week. You will do that in the first couple of weeks, just be walking. Then you will start doing kind of a walk-run ratio. You kind of want to work out for the same amount of time. Be really consistent on how long you decide you're going to be walking for, and then building into that running. So really, you might start out with walking for 4 minutes and then doing a light jog for 2 minutes, and then always go back to walking again. And you can kind of build that into your 30-minute plan, and then you kind of build up to further running for or walking for a longer time and adding in more bouts of running. If you feel like, you can always change it, where if you feel like you're moving too quickly and you're getting a lot of muscle soreness, which muscle soreness isn't bad, but also you want to make sure you can be healthy and safe about building up that routine. It would be good also, even if you're not using one of the plans that I suggested researching, it would be good to kind of keep track of your walking, running. That way okay, this week this is how I did my ratio, and then do that, maybe the same for a couple of weeks, and then the next week do 2 more weeks of similar walk run ratios. While you're doing this should also, I'm going back to that workout routine that you have, muscle strength building, kind of those, talking about the glutes, building up the strength, those workout routines that are aside from your walking and running. You also want to make sure you have a really good core strength. Also, if you don't have very good balance, then that's going to throw off your running stride, and that again can cause injury. So something that you want to kind of be researching too is a variety of core balance and hip strengthening exercises. That again, if you were a little more sedentary and not already active, then you would want to start out with, okay, let's build up these muscles first so they're nice and stable, and then going into your walking, running routine. And it shouldn't hurt to run. You may get a lot of times people get the side cramps that happen. That could be you're not getting the right amount of fluid intake, or your nutrients with your diet. I'll go a little more into that, but it should feel good to be exercising. And so you want to make sure you're listening to your body when doing these workout routines and your walking and running ratios. Something that you could think about, if you're not wanting to just be walking, you could use a stationary bike or elliptical to help build that cardio endurance to be ready for running. Whatever is going to get you to be consistent, that you can motivate yourself to, okay, I'm going to do this 5 days a week. And it's important to have rest days in between. Exercising 7 days a week is going to be too hard on your body. You have to have those recovery periods, but it is good to keep even on days you're resting, a stretching routine is good, or some light strengthening, just to keep things moving a little bit, so that you're not getting into too much of that muscle soreness that you can't recover from. And another thing to think about when you're trying to get back into running or starting a running routine, you want to make sure that you have something at the end that's sort of a reward, so that your brain kind of gets used to, oh, I can get something out of this, not just running for nothing. Even if you have a goal of, well, I want to be able to run a 5K, or I just really want to be able to do a little bit of running to get some cardio. Sometimes Also good to get a running partner who is also on board with kind of your plan, that is a little more motivating, that you have that person that, they're looking forward to doing something with you. Um, the reward that I was mentioning could be something like a favorite TV show or a healthy drink or snack. You don't want to try and go for those sugary snacks, because then we want to make sure we're being healthy as well when rewarding ourselves. And with going back to the consistency, it's really good to try and pick a certain time of day you're going to be doing this, and then of course your eating habits as well, as you want to be consistent with that. Part of sort of keeping track of what you want to do with your walking and running ratio is kind of setting your goals. It would be good to write some goals down where you want to be at the end of your preparation for getting up to this point. So, writing down how long you would really like to be able to run for, or just what is your motivation? What do you want to accomplish with running other than being more fit, which may just be that goal, that running is just really what you want to try to get into or back into. Again, kind of like, okay, maybe you're going for a marathon or a 5K, or you want to be able to run with your spouse or significant other or friend. Something with the exercise routine, or just or your walking and running routine, you want to be including a warm up and cool down with that, and that's with any sort of exercise routine. With your warm ups, it's good to be doing some stretching, but also you have to think about what kind of stretching you're doing. Something like sitting down and stretching your muscles is a good thing, but also you want to be doing some sort of dynamic activity, like jogging in place to warm up the muscles, some high knees, or some butt kickers, some lunges, something that you can do that feels comfortable, that feels like it's not only stretching the muscles but kind of warming them up. If you just sit down and stretch the muscles with those static holds of those specific muscles you're stretching, that you may not get a proper kind of warm up those muscles, and they could still be irritated or something if you happen to pull a muscle, even if it's not a really extensive pulling of the muscle, but it could create more of that muscle soreness later, that maybe many are familiar with the term delayed onset muscle soreness, or DOMS. That's pretty easy to get if you're not careful of what you're eating, drinking, and what things you're doing before and after your exercise routine. So it's good to kind of figure out what you want to do for that warm-up phase, along with the cool down. And those are more of usually suggested to do more of those static stretches, because you're already been working those muscles, so now it's time to kind of get that heart rate down, do some of those static holds. And some people even do some yoga stretching as well. You wouldn't want to just start running and then stop and sit down and rest. If you're too tired when you're running, slow down, keep walking, keep moving around. That can also cause injury, or that muscle soreness that can cause cramping and things like that. So also for the heart rate to recover, you wouldn't want to just quit running and the heart rate is still going to be going, but you're not moving. So it's that blood pressure can kind of be messed with. So you want to just be safe with that as well. And also thinking about later on in the day after you've already ran, or even if you're running in the evening, sometime before bed, that's following your whole routine. It would be really good to do some more stretches then, um, especially if you're like in the evening before bed. You wouldn't want to go do some jumping jacks or something that would get your heart rate up and then try to go to bed, because that would hurt that bedtime routine. But some gentle stretching would be really good to help with that muscle soreness. And then another thing to kind of think about when you do start getting into running, you really want to think about what surfaces you're running on. You have to be careful when you decide to go and change a surface from maybe a pavement to running in the grass, or something that you haven't been doing for a while. Then you could end up getting something like shin splints, where the front of your shins, those muscles have been pulled on so much that they become painful, or like an ankle injury, ankle sprain that can easily happen. So we want to make sure that you're on a good surface, trying to find surfaces that are a little softer if you can. Running on hard pavement is not good on those joints. That the softer pavements help, softer surfaces help kind of absorb that shock from the impact of your running. And even with walking, if it's something you haven't done for a while and you start walking, you have to be careful with your surfaces. And if you don't want them to be too uneven, if you decide to go walking in the grass or somewhere, because that can again cause injuries as well. And it is good to be changing your scenery too if you start getting bored of running. Sometimes it's helpful to try and go a different way than you had before, if that's possible, just to kind of keep it a little bit mixed up. And so that repetitiveness, sometimes it's easy to get bored of that. You also want to think about, for sort of injury prevention and just in general, your whole body health, you want to make sure that you're not just exercising your lower body. Even when, obviously, with running, it's focused on core and lower extremities, the strengthening. You also want to make sure you don't forget about your upper body, because that's important too, to keep the whole body strengthened and supportive. Especially when running, you have to think about your posture. So if you have kind of a weak upper body, you might be a little slouchy, and then that can cause problems later on down the road, possible back problems, or even your shoulders or neck. So you want to make sure you're keeping some sort of routine for your upper body as well. Something about sort of balancing again with your diet and exercise. Even if you're not someone who's getting into that 5K or marathon avid running, you should also always be thinking about, okay, am I drinking enough water the day before I go running? The day of, you should be drinking water before going for that run. During exercise, it's good to have water nearby, and even afterwards. You have to really make sure that your muscles are going to get, and your body is going to get enough of that fluid to recover from that exercise, because it's going to be pulling in all the nutrients and water that it can to sustain that period of time that you're exercising. And something to think about with running as a goal, um, one of the goals with your running, if it is to be trying to lose weight, it actually may not be the best choice for you. Um, Research has shown, especially with long distance running, it's not an effective weight loss plan. Usually because it increases the appetite, because the body feels like it's starving after you're using more energy, so it's taking all of your kind of your all the nutrients and things that you have stored in your body, and so it thinks it needs more later on, and your appetite goes up, so you want to eat more, and then you end up not being able to lose that weight. And so you want to make sure you're thinking about that with your diet. And a lot of times when we're trying to either lose weight or just be fit, we think about, okay, we don't want to have as many carbs in our system. You have to kind of find a balance, because certain carbs are good for those who really want to be long distance running. The body needs those nutrients to sustain that long distance running. Something like the simple sugars in the carbs are really good to be eating right before a run, but you wouldn't want to necessarily have the more complex carbs. Those are actually not absorbed quickly enough to be beneficial when you go for that run. So they'll just kind of be sitting in your stomach and actually end up being turned into fat later on. So it's kind of those simple carbs are a good fuel for your body right before a run. So something like fruits or sports drinks, the gels they have out there for runners, a lot of times the energy gels. Something for the complex carbs that you want to eat sort of just any time of the day that's not before a run, that you want to keep in mind, like pasta, oatmeal, potatoes. You still want to have those in your diet, but obviously in moderation. Another thing for runners that are really good to have is protein, which I'm sure a lot of people know this, that protein helps build muscle, but you actually would want to eat it like within around 20 minutes after a run, not before. The protein doesn't actually build the muscle when you're running. It helps for recovery afterwards, and that's what actually builds the muscle, is using the nutrients from protein to recover those muscles from exercise. And so if you're someone who doesn't want to find the protein in meat, there's beans, eggs, quinoa, soy, barley, and also they have protein powders. That's something you want to think about. Even if you're not a long distance runner, you should definitely get in some protein for the day. And also another thing that people think maybe is not a good thing to have in their diet is fats. And fats meaning the good kind of fats, not just something like from sweets and candies and things, the sugars. That actually does help give you a good source of energy for the endurance exercise, and it helps absorb the vitamins that you intake. So something like in meats, also coconut oil or butter, those kind of saturated fats. Those are good to have. And then also the polyunsaturated, which are in seeds, avocado, fish, and then in some also there's the monounsaturated fats. I did some research on different types of fats here that are really good for your diet. The monounsaturated are found in olive oil, avocados, and some nuts. So you wouldn't want to eat these things right before a run. Again, it doesn't absorb quickly into the body enough to use as fuel for your run, so you just kind of want to have that included into your diet any other time. As always, you should eat fruits and vegetables. Um, it can actually sometimes help ease the soreness of the muscles to get in those right nutrients from the fruits and veggies. And so you can kind of eat them anytime. But I actually did some research, and if you have trouble with your stomach maybe giving you an upset when you're running, like if you get nausea or uh, cramping or anything, a lot of people get some things happening when they run in their stomach. It's best to avoid raw fruits and vegetables right before a run. It says, maybe better if it would be a cooked some in some way. Um, if you're looking for the best kind of fruits that help with that helping the ease of soreness of muscles, so it has like the antioxidant and anti-inflammatory properties. Those are actually like the smaller berries and the stone fruits like peaches have the most properties in there. And something else about diet, if you eat 3 meals a day and you really feel like you're super hungry in between because you've started running and you just want to keep eating everything, well, space out those meals to be small meals throughout the day, or even include healthy snacks in between that don't necessarily need to be a full meal. Because and that's really good actually for the blood sugar control as well, because your body will start changing on how it uses those nutrients and things. Um, Something to think about in general when you're starting all of these as a habit. This should be something you should do before you decide to go out and do your walking and running program. You should already be um, making these habits with your eating habits and fluids and everything. That way your body is going to be ready for this and able to get either back into it or starting up a running regimen. Something to think about when you go to start getting this program set up. Something that we have going on here in the clinic is running analysis, where you can come in and we can see how you look when you're running, and we would be able to tell if you have maybe some sort of weakness going on or something that you need to focus on with your run so that you have a good stride, and that will help you prevent injuries. Maybe we can even see where you have some weakness that you would want to target your other exercise program into targeting those muscles specifically, so that you have a good running stride and you prevent those injuries. We can even maybe help you with your footwear. If we can see how you run, the way you land your foot, you may need a certain type of shoe that would help with keeping your foot a little more neutral, so that it prevents that injury again. And not only can, again, thinking about foot or ankle injuries, but it can kind of create a chain reaction of, if you step the wrong way, you could end up getting knee problems, hip problems, back problems, and you may not know that it's actually coming from your foot and the way you walk. It may not hurt in your foot, but you start having problems on one side of the body, and so it can all in all come from how you're running or even walking. If you're not wanting to fully get into running and just want to walk, we can help with the stride analysis as well. With walking, we can tell if there's some imbalances on your foot placing and your posture and things like that. That way, that can be something someone else can see that you're not noticing. That will help you keep you from getting an injury and staying healthy. And so that was going to be my conclusion today on that. We also have free screening available here at Therapy Works. If you're having some sort of injury or weakness, some kind of pain that you really feel like you need to get checked out, that we can tell you if you may be a good candidate for physical therapy, and that we can get you ready to get into your walking or running routine. We're here for that as well, so you can give us a call. We have and our website you can get on. You can use the Facebook page to get a hold of us. So we are here for you, even for any questions that you have. You can give us contact us in any of those ways. So hopefully you can use this information to help you get back to running or get started on running and being healthy and safe. So have a good day.